Hey there friends and folks, today I'm going to go over some tool basics, specifically pliers. Pliers are like your second hands when working on jewelry and will allow you to achieve super tiny wire detail you wouldn't be able to otherwise. And while I often say your best tools are your hands, pliers are a very close second. We're going to start with the 3 pliers that are at the core of everything I do: my chain nose, my round nose, and my wire cutters. Now, chain nose pliers have a pointed tip that is flat on the inside and round on the outside. These are handy for creating sharp bends, as well as generally just being a hold onto smaller points of wire you can't quite grab with your fingers. These will look closest to what you might imagine when you think of pliers, but unlike your hefty hardware pliers, they are smooth so as to not damage or bite your metal while working. Your household pliers will probably have this tooth on the inside to help you better grip things with, but for jewelry that will actually damage the wire we're working with, and we do not want that. On a side note, I would like to point out that some of my pliers, these included, say Classroom on them because I used to work as the class lead for a bead store here in Seattle. When that store shut down, we sold our Classroom tools at a discount price, and boy did I stock up. Now, there are many varieties of plier that fall into this category of flat on the inside. 3 others that I have on hand in order from most used to least used, we have our needle nose, our flat nose, and our bent nose. The needle nose, as the name suggests, has an incredibly long and pointed nose. It functions similarly to your chain nose, but allows for even more precise work. Because the nose is so small though, if I'm too rough with them, they do get a little bent, and in general I try not to work the nose with anything thicker than a 24 gauge, just to be safe. Our flat nose, also as they suggest, have a flat nose instead of a pointed nose, and are angular on all sides. I often use these for creating sharp bends, as well as a second hand when holding larger pieces. Our bent nose are also just as they sound. Are you sensing a theme? The only reason I don't use these as often is because the bent nose I have is an economy plier, as opposed to most of the other pliers I have, which are Tronex ergonomic pliers. I do like these a lot though, and need to get more in the habit of using them. They help you hold pieces and reach at angles without as much strain to your wrists, which as someone who often works for hours at a time, multiple times a week, the less strain on my hands the better. And now we're going to move on to our round nose pliers. These puppies are my life. As insinuated, their noses are both fully round and graduate to a point, allowing different sizes of loops to be achieved. These allow for a lot of precision work and should be a staple for anyone wanting to do any sort of wire work. Another looping plier I have that isn't necessarily considered a round nose are these wrap and tap pliers from EUTRO TOOL. Because I do so many wire wrapped pendants, and also because I make my own ear wires, these are so handy for creating consistent loops. One nose has 3 stepped loop sizes, and the opposite is a nylon covered nose that holds your wire without damaging it. This is the 5, 7, 10 millimeter set. There is a 13, 16, 20 millimeter set that you can buy, but I don't usually make loops that big. And if I am, I just kind of use random household supplies like the tops of nail polish bottles, Sharpie pens, markers, lipstick tubes, etc. Now on to our wire cutters. The term wire cutter is a very broad term and refers to anything that cuts wire. Even those heavy-duty cutters near the joint of your household pliers can be considered wire cutters, but for jewelry making you'll need a much lighter and more precise touch. This pair of Tronex cutters that I will typically use are referred to as flush cutters, as when they cut your wire, they create one edge that is as close to flush as you can get with pliers. This is useful when you get into silver fusing and such, but because these are so delicate, I also have some economy cutters to help with heavier wires. If I'm cutting anything thicker than 20 gauge copper or 14 gauge silver, I move down to my side cutters. These don't create as flush of a cut, but they're a bit heavier and cheaper, so if I don't need the precision of my flush cutters, I will default to these. Though from there, if I go heavier than, let's say, 16 gauge copper or 10 gauge silver, I'll move up even further to my full flush compound cutters, which are the big boys. Now, economic pliers usually start in the range of $10, but if you're looking to make a lot of jewelry pretty consistently, it's worth looking into ergonomic pliers. The Tronex pliers start in the range of $45 per, but I've worked with them for easily over 5,000 hours, and they are still going strong. When I was first looking to invest in a solid set of pliers, I was debating between Tronex and Lindstrom pliers, and it honestly came down to how they felt in my hands. There's also plenty of in-between brands in terms of quality and price, and a lot of it has to do with personal preference. The other upside to ergonomic pliers is the precision they allow. Comparing this pair of economic chain nose that I recall retailing for about $8.95 at the store where I worked to my Tronex needle nose, there is a huge difference. Had I not had the privilege of working at the store that I did and having access to discounted tools, I probably would have only invested in pricier pairs for my most used pliers and pliers that are not available economically. Were I buying all my pliers here and now, I would probably invest in ergonomic needle nose, round nose, and flush cutters, but I could honestly compromise on the chain nose, flat nose, and bent nose. But that's just for me and my practice. I would love to know what pliers you can't live without and what brands you're working with. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions down below and I will do my best to answer them. Till next time, take care and be well.